Thank you to everybody for taking time out of their day to join us. My contact information is listed here, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or if I can offer any advice to you. My email address is here as well as my Twitter handle. Bearing in mind kind of my range of experiences, I'm hoping that something in here will be useful for everybody, whether it's youth level or, I'm currently at the professional level and kind of everywhere in between. I'm hoping that what you see here will be useful to you in some way. So just jump right into it. I'm sure kind of everybody knows who Raymond Verheyen is and is at least somewhat familiar with his work. If not, I would highly encourage you to read his book on football periodization. As I don't intend for this to be a copy of one of his courses, so forgive me for this, but it's kind of the logical starting point, and it's the kind of the title of what we're talking about today is looking at the idea of this analysis process, finding the same path of objective references to guide your subjective applications. So we start with kind of the philosophy: conceptual, universal, factual, objective. Okay, this is all from Raymond's book, so I'll kind of speed through this. But objectivity is scientific, right? It leads to repeatability in terms of the process, which gives you consistency and sustainability. Subjectivity is a bit more contextual, so it's kind of the one-time application of it leads to a given result based on a myriad of external factors, and it's kind of the second step after this subjective kind of philosophical step. But if you skip straight to it without this scientific reference-based framework, then you can end up with chaos. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and you never truly understand why. Raymond always says this, but don't copy somebody else's subjective application, right? You see it too often at coaching courses and conventions. People will go with their notebooks and they write where the cones are laid. And instead look for these kind of overarching references and objective frameworks that can guide your application regardless of your particular environment. So the starting point for everything in football is having vision and having a vision. So the difference between the two, right? Having vision is this kind of philosophical piece and being able to see the game and being able to understand what the game gives you from a more objective framework. And then having a vision is kind of the application of this process and being able to take, you have to know what you want the game to look like, and then you have to be able to interpret how close your team is and what's possible with the current group that you're working with. The only way you know that is through analysis. So therefore, kind of analysis is this first step in the coaching process. So if you look at it, for me, the coaching process is a 4-step system, right? So you have, number one, you have your analysis. So again, it's got to be objectively framed, performance-based. So what's happening on the field, and honest reflection. So you're looking at not only what do I want my team to do or what do I want to have happen, but what's actually happening, right? And then from there, analyze, you come up with some theory. Okay, it's you have your role models, so you can think of, okay, how would Barcelona handle this situation? What would my favorite coach do in this situation? You develop your game model, and you have your ideas from that analysis that kind of go into these theories, these thoughts that you have about the game. And then from there, you have some concepts, right? You conceptualize ways to transmit this theory. This is your session, your match planning, the way that you implement your ideas, and the way that you want to go about putting those into play, which then comes the 4th step of the process is this execution. Okay, so training sessions, games, this is on the grass, this is the actual work. For me, this is why we coach, right? We love to be on the field and we love to be actually working with the players. So that's why, for me anyway, that's why I like coaching. And then finally, we go in back to the analysis. After you've done it, you have to analyze it. How did it go? Does that change any of the other steps? How would you do it next time? Does it change the way you think about a particular aspect? For the club I'm working at now, my primary area of responsibility is the analysis piece, which I take very seriously because as you can see here, for me, it's kind of the start and the end of the coaching process. So kind of like we covered before, you can't coach if you don't have that vision to guide your overarching philosophy. So zooming in specifically on the analysis process, okay, we have 2 branches of analysis. Okay, there's self-analysis, where you're obviously watching your own team, and you have opposition analysis, where you're analyzing a team that you're coming up against. So self-analysis, if you're looking at the training week, it guides the entire process from training to match day. So you have your in-match analysis, you have post-match, and then every day after training, you have that analysis process as well. And then for the team opposition analysis, you break it into two aspects. You have team analysis and then the individual players within the team. You have to take care to separate analysis from prediction, especially when we're looking at opposition analysis. You can only be sure about what you see right now, not what will happen in the future. So you can't predict what a team will do. You know, if you've done your job as an analyst, the way I look at it is if I've done my job, then we should have a clear picture of what they've done, and we can use that to inform, although not dictate our preparation, because again, you don't know for sure what's going to happen. So the best you can do is hope that you will have a clear picture of what has happened in the past, which will then naturally affect the way that things will happen in the future. Even within what you see, there are obviously plenty of opportunities for discrepancies. So is a team playing a 4-2-3-1? Are they playing 4-4-2, 4-4-1-1? You know, all three of those systems can look very much the same. You see how quickly and easily we lose objectivity and we get lost in the subjective. So try to keep your analysis, again, as factual and objective as possible. And observation is kind of the natural precursor to this. You have to watch very carefully. And these days, there's plenty of software that can help you in your analysis. So I'll have a quick word here on there's three different types of analysts you'll find at football clubs. And so first is kind of data and analytics experts who are really good with numbers, math, modeling. We have one at our club. His name's Alex Maishu, who's an absolute genius in this stuff, and we're lucky to have him. You know, you have your tactical, your pure analysts who understand the analysis, can usually theorize based on that analysis, and not necessarily don't always have the expertise in the concept and execution pieces of the coaching process. And then you have your analyst coaches who are becoming far more common. I'd put myself in this category just because my background is coaching. This is the first time I've had a job where I've been really more focused on the analysis piece. What I would say to make the distinction a bit clearer is that all coaches can analyze on some level. So even if you're standing on the touchline on match day and you're watching your team, that's analysis. You're figuring out what's happening, what's the other team doing, how do we cope with it. But not all analysts can coach, right? So if you can do both, then you'll be able to contribute to the overall coaching process. This analyst coach type is becoming far more increasingly common in the modern game. And the existence, why I put laptop coach there in quotations, is you sometimes see it. It's been derided by some who are a little bit less comfortable with this idea. But if you look at modern clubs and managers at the top levels of the game, and I would include the Crew and our boss Caleb Porter in that, they understand the importance of analysis and dedicate their time and their staff's time to ensuring that they get it right, and as well as hiring the right people to be on the analysis team who can provide critical insight. The best staffs, if you have the luxury of hiring an actual staff with multiple people, will have all three of these types of analysts in it. But the head of the department, I think, should be somebody with a coaching background who knows what information and pictures to transmit and how to transmit it. So it kind of ties everything in together and feeds it back into the rest of the coaching process. So everybody's seen this chart by now, but it shows kind of the logical structure of the game in four distinct but fluid phases. This is what guides your analysis. Okay, just as it guides you in the creation of a game model, training session design, everything. So within that, in attack and defense, you have the thirds of the field that provide a framework for player and team behaviors in each. The way you attack in the defensive third is distinct from the way you attack in the final third, for example, because of the context of the actions. So dividing the field into thirds is kind of the easiest way to make sure that you're getting a complete picture of player and team behavior in each area of the field. Transition moments have either actions to exploit an opponent. So you have your counterattacking, your counter-pressing. So right away, those first couple of seconds after gaining or losing possession. Or you have actions to kind of settle into the next phase. So you have regaining control. Do you pass the ball backward to kind of complete some passes? Or do you drop off to defensive block if you're transitioning to defending? And then you have set pieces as kind of the soft fifth phase of the game. And for analysis purposes, they have a special area of focus because they're really the only time you can treat our sport like American football or basketball, where you have specific schematics, you can draw up plays. Big clubs have people in the analysis department who solely focus on set pieces. Their entire job is to watch the opponent and to basically know their set pieces. The way you use this framework will kind of differ depending on if you're performing self-analysis or opposition analysis. So for the opposition, again, their motives, their game model, their game plan, you can't know precisely, but it's a bit more of an objective and observation based. What do they do in each third of the field? What are the patterns? What are they good at? What can you exploit? What's different from one game to the next? What might cause those differences, whether it's injury, key players missing, players moving into different positions, that sort of thing.